But first, with unemployment well into double digits and 1.5 million Australians on the job seeker double dole, another 3.5 million on JobKeeper, businesses going to the wall and the country in an official recession, you'd think that anyone offering work would be knocked over in the rush. Well, you'd be wrong. As you've seen in recent weeks, I've had employer after employer on the show crying out for workers. In one case, a strawberry grower offering $3,500 a week for anyone who's not afraid of a bit of hard work.
The agriculture industry has been concerned about this right from the beginning. When COVID first hit back in March, we were concerned about the lack of workers. We're heavily reliant on international people to come and harvest and pack our fruit. That's largely because Aussies just don't want to do it anymore.
Honestly, what's happened to us? We used to have a bit of frontier spirit, but nowadays too many of us, it seems, are quick to have our hand out for more and more from the taxpayer. Yet in Victoria, of course, businesses that are desperate to open up again are being cut off at the knees by a premier hell-bent on eliminating the virus, even if it eliminates jobs and small business with it. Small business, of course, is not a natural constituency of Labor. Perhaps this is why Daniel Andrews doesn't care. Perhaps longer term, killing off small business out of this pandemic removes one of the Premier's key adjutants. Or am I being too Machiavellian? Too cunning there, even for Labor. Today there are more reports that Australian agriculture is in dire straits. Closed international borders have dried up the supply of willing backpacker workers, while the double dole has made Australians more reluctant than ever to take on these physically demanding jobs. And don't think if you're not a farmer that this doesn't apply to you, because if we want to get out of this recession, we need agriculture to fire. And as the National Farmers Federation President Tony Marr also warned today, all of us, even in the cities, could be hit with food shortages here if farmers can't get workers. Meanwhile, the Federal Agriculture Minister is threatening those states with closed borders, namely WA, Queensland and Tasmania, that they won't be able to import foreign fruit pickers if they keep their borders shut to Australians wanting work. That's right, these premiers, Queensland, WA and Tassie, won't open their borders to unemployed Australians who want to work right now, as we know, but it said they'll happily open up their borders to around 4,000 international workers set to arrive by Christmas to do all of this fruit picking work. Now, are we serious? Honestly, are we serious? A lot of our own people, okay, a lot of our own unemployed don't want to work in regional areas, don't want to do the hard physical work of labouring in a vineyard, not helped, of course, by overly generous welfare. But those that do want to do this work, why stop them? Some of the farmers and growers have even resorted to offering travel subsidies to get workers into the regions. Steve Dilley, a West Australian apple grower, says it's been years since anyone's come from Perth to earn $1,000 plus a week picking fruit on his place. That's why, he says, they've had to rely on backpackers, because backpackers have no access to welfare and that makes them willing to work. Of course, the region around Donnybrook, the centre of WA's apple orchards, where farmers can't get workers, it's had an official unemployment rate of 7% back in March. Now, of course, it'd be much higher now, yet it can't get enough locals to want to work. How do we as a country pay people on the dole in areas where jobs go begging? Right now, the federal government has shelled out, or borrowed, to be more accurate, around $300 billion to see us through this pandemic. Debt's well on the way to $1 trillion, as we know. Next month's budget, federal budget, it'll be a sea of red ink. So the last thing we need, surely, is taxpayer money going to people who could work but won't. Now, I accept that right now there really are millions of Australians who want to work but can't, and who need government support. But as with so much else, this pandemic has shown up all the other things we need to do better. And paying people to be unemployed when there's work they could do, that's high on the list that I reckon needs changing. Work for the dole. Introduced by the Howard government scrapped by the Rudd-Gillard government, brought back by the Abbott government, only to be pretty much scrapped again by the Turnbull government, is one policy solution that works and must be restored and made compulsory and permanent by Scott Morrison. This isn't just the economic issue of making sure businesses have workers they need. It's about ending the something for nothing mindset. It's about the dignity of work. And it's about turning around the sorry truth that even before this pandemic, 60% of Australian households pay no net tax. So we're effectively carried by the other 40% of households who did. Now, clearly, today, that number would be even worse. There's many things we know we need to fix out of this pandemic, but jobs going begging while we pay out money for nothing, I tell you, that's close to the top of my list.